At least 30 people have been injured in the southern German city of Munich after a car was driven into a trade union protest march. Police arrested a suspect at the scene. He's reportedly a male Afghan who had his refugee application rejected, his asylum application rejected in 2020. The incident follows a series of attacks in recent months involving immigrants, which have pushed migration to the forefront of the campaign for Germany's election on February 23rd.
The Mini Cooper that plowed into a crowd in the center of Munich is removed from the scene. Police are collecting evidence and treating the incident as a suspected attack. Around 11 a.m. on Thursday, the driver accelerated the vehicle before hitting dozens of people gathered for a trade union rally. Some of the victims were said to be in serious condition.
Colleagues caught the perpetrator. The vehicle was shot at once. The perpetrator was arrested.
The detained suspect is an Afghan national who's lived in Germany since 2016. Officials say his asylum request was denied, but he'd found a job and remained in the country legally. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz condemned what he called the awful attack and promised severe consequences.
So from my point of view, once again, very clearly, this perpetrator cannot count on any mercy. He must be punished and he must leave the country.
The Chancellor's tough rhetoric follows a string of violent attacks involving asylum seekers in Germany. It also comes just days before the country's snap election, with Thursday's ramming incident in Munich quickly becoming a focal point in the political campaigns.
We all know the concerns of many people, the feelings of the country being threatened from within, and I know them too. And we have to do something about this.
The far right also seized on the incident. And it's the same pattern again. It's an Afghan whose asylum application has been rejected, who has been granted tolerated status instead of being deported, known to the police. As night fell, a trickle of people made their way to the scene of the suspected attack to pay tribute to the injured. Some left messages on the lanterns, expressing thoughts and prayers for the victims, but also calling for unity and respect for human rights.
DW Chief Political Editor Michaela Kuvna is in Munich. Michaela, what more do we know about the suspected attacker at this point?
Well, we know that, first of all, despite the fact that he was rejected as an asylum claimant instantly, he had a legal title to still remain in Germany because Germany doesn't send people back to Afghanistan where he comes from. He also had a work permit here in Germany, and that's where a lot of confusion came in. Initially, authorities here said that he had a criminal record, which turned out not to be true. In fact, he was a witness because he worked as a detective in a store. He was a witness to the crime of theft, and that's why he was on file with the police. So there was quite a bit of confusion about him. We know that of those people who are in hospital, at least 7 are still in a critical condition. Severe injuries there. A young child also involved. The young child was resuscitated at the scene. And this man who launched the attack was stopped very quickly because, as you can see behind me, there's a lot of security here in Munich because the Munich Security Conference is getting underway today. So there was a lot of police out and about in the streets and was able to intercept him. We also heard from the Afghan community here in Munich saying that even problems, psychological problems, were no excuse for such an attack. But there's an assumption here at this moment, and that's still being verified, that this man was radicalized, that there may be a motive, an Islamist motive behind it, and that he might have become radicalized here in Germany even.
Now, this incident, Michaela, comes after a number of other attacks in Germany where the perpetrators turn out to be migrants or, in some cases, failed asylum seekers. How are political parties in the country responding?
Well, that's exactly it. They are individual incidents. There's always a different history behind them, but it feels like a pattern. to many people here, people who've come as asylum seekers, who've been rejected. There was the Christmas market attack just before Christmas in Magdeburg. In Aschaffenburg a couple of weeks ago, there was a deadly stabbing where a 2-year-old child was killed as well. And every time politicians come out and vow tougher action, including the German Chancellor, who now came out and said that anyone who commits crimes should be sent back to countries, even if that proves difficult. Well, the feeling here is that many have heard it before, and we're seeing in fresh polling that has come out that there remains a strong interest in migration as an election issue, but also the economy, which is now hardly talked about. And after all, we're just 9 days ahead of elections here in Germany.
And we can actually look at the latest polls right now. The conservative CDU-CSU bloc remains in the lead on 32%. That's 1% up on the last poll. The far-right party, Alternative for Germany, the AfD, is unchanged on 21%. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats are down 1% on 14%. The Greens on 14% as well. The Left Party on 6%. But the Liberal Free Democrats and the BSW are below the 5% hurdle needed to enter the German parliament, the Bundestag. Now, Michaela, some parties are trying to make political capital from this. Do you expect to see any changes in opinion polls as a result?
I do not. And in fact, it's several parties now, including the party of the CDU-CSU, the conservative camp, where Friedrich Merz, the top candidate, is currently the front runner. They've just seen a slight uptick in the opinion polls, but he really picked a fight with the other parties of the centre. He took this issue to Parliament. He accepted far-right votes to get a non-binding motion through, and still the polls didn't really move either way. Everything we're seeing now is still within the era of the margin of error here, and we do expect Friedrich Merz to remain at just above 30%. He will certainly need a coalition partner. The still open question is whether that will be with the Social Democrats of Olaf Scholz, which is a preference within his own party and overall in the public, or whether the Greens will become strong enough to be a potential coalition partner. Both are neck and neck at around 14, 15, 16 sometimes percentage points. So a tight race for who comes second and who could become junior partner in a coalition that will fairly clearly, if the polls are anything to go by, be led by the conservative CDU-CSU leader Friedrich Merz, a successor to Angela Merkel then, but also a political rival. So a very different type of conservatism that will then name the political game here in Germany.
DW Chief Political Editor Michaela Küfner joining us from Munich. Thank you so much for your time.